You're wandering through a crowded thrift store, the air thick with the smell of old books and forgotten furniture. You push aside a stack of dusty frames and a rack of questionable 80s prom dresses. And then you see it. Something calls to you. It might not look like much to anyone else, but your heart gives a little flutter. You buy it for a few dollars, a pittance really, and take it home, loving it simply for what it is. But in the back of your mind, that tiny, hopeful voice whispers, what if? What if this dusty painting is a lost masterpiece? What if this old costume jewelry is real? What if this simple blanket is something more? For one incredibly lucky guest on the Antiques Roadshow, that what-if fantasy became a heart-stopping reality. The PBS series had rolled into Minnesota, and as always the line was filled with hopeful locals, clutching everything from family heirlooms to quirky garage sale finds. They all came seeking an answer to the same two-part question: what is this and what is it worth? Among them was a woman with a passion. She wasn't a high-roller collector, she was a hobbyist, a lover of craft. She stepped up to the table of expert James French and presented him with a beautiful textile. It's a piece I found at a thrift store in Minnesota, she explained, her voice humble. She went on to say that she has a deep love for linens and needlework. She adores studying the craft, appreciating the time and skill stitched into every fiber. She didn't buy this piece as an investment, she bought it because it spoke to her passion. And oh, what a story it had to tell. The expert's eye. Imagine being James French for a moment. As an expert, you've seen thousands of items. You become incredibly skilled at sorting the treasures from the, well, not so treasures, often in a matter of seconds. When this textile was laid on the table, French's expert brain immediately went to work. His initial thought? It was another 20th century Scandinavian-inspired textile. He had seen so many of them before. It was a popular style, often copied and mass-produced. It was lovely, yes, but probably just a nice decorative item. He was polite, of course, but he was already preparing his gentle, "This is a beautiful piece of decorative art" speech. But then, he paused. He leaned in closer. An expert's eye is trained to catch the details that 99% of people would miss. As he looked, really looked, he realized there was, as he put it, something more going on in the detail. This wasn't flat. This wasn't a simple commercial print. He remarked on the subtle coloration, the way the threads were dyed and blended with an artist's touch. He noted the way it was woven together, with a complexity that hinted at true mastery. This wasn't the work of a machine or a simple hobbyist. This was the work of a master. And then his eyes landed on the one thing that changes everything, the one tiny detail that separates a factory piece from a priceless work of art. Tucked away in the corner was a signature, the initials that changed everything. This, French knew, was the real clue. Commercial pieces, even high-quality ones, are almost never signed. A signature means an artist, it means a studio, it means provenance. The initials woven into the fabric were MIMF. You can almost feel the electricity in the air at that moment. For an expert like French, seeing those initials wasn't just a clue. It was the entire answer. He knew exactly who this was. He looked up at the guest, who was waiting patiently, probably still just happy to be sharing her find. He took a breath and prepared to completely change her day. Those initials, he explained, belonged to Marta Mas Federström. If you're not in the world of high-end textile design, that name might not ring a bell. But in that world, it's the equivalent of seeing Picasso on a canvas or Fabergé on an egg. Marta Mas Federström wasn't just a designer. She was the leading textile designer and producer in Sweden during the early 20th century. She was an icon. She began her career as a painter, which explains the incredible, subtle coloration French had noticed. She was painting with thread. In 1918, she established her own workshop, a legendary studio where she and her team crafted some of the most sought-after textiles in the world. Curtain fabrics, rugs and carpets that were, and still are, considered masterpieces of design. French let that sink in for a moment. This guest, who loved needlework, had unknowingly found a piece by one of the 20th century's most important figures in the craft. The Nobel Prize connection. But the expert wasn't done. To truly hammer home the importance of this thrift store find, He added the detail that puts it all into perspective. She was of such prominence, French observed, the excitement clear in his voice, that she designed and manufactured the rugs that are used for the Nobel Prize ceremonies in Stockholm.